onboarding checklist. And as Sylvia mentioned, you are doing some of the same things for the partner organization that you're doing with us. But the difference between the two onboarding processes is that the partner needs to know the specifics so that they are going to be the ones to actually pay you for the weekly stipend and the housing supplement and whatnot. So anything having to do with money, you'll have to coordinate with your partner. As far as everything else, as far as the assignment, the onboarding checklist that I'm going to go over is going to be the key. And what we're looking at is between now and the start of your orientation, which is the second week in June, we are hopeful that you will receive via UPS or FedEx a government laptop computer. And so there's a whole bunch of things that have to happen between now and that point in time. And so I'll just go through quickly. Because you're all here and invited and showed up for this session, I know that you did the first couple steps. We just sent simply a test email to make sure that we had your correct email addresses. And in a couple cases, we never heard back from people. So we had to follow up and make sure maybe there was an error with the email address. And then once you have established that we're going to be sending you mainly this communication from this joint inbox that Vanessa talked about, that's the primary way that we'll be communicating with you with follow-up questions about any of this. And so, again, I think you probably already, or if you haven't, be sure the number 3 step, that completing that Microsoft Forms, there is a lot of what we call PII, personally identifiable information, that we need in order to complete the process of the onboarding. And so she's going to show you this. It's a Microsoft Forms online thing that has a whole bunch of questions on it that is information that we need in order to begin the onboarding from the Forest Service standpoint. And this also is information that is needed in order to do a federal background investigation. So we have personnel security folks at our Albuquerque Service Center in New Mexico that actually do the background investigations. That it's a whole separate thing that probably is in addition to what your partner is already doing. So if you haven't already, just make sure that you're following that third step, completing that entire questionnaire. And then I think included in that is we're asking for uploading, let's see. Oh, no, I jumped ahead of myself here. So the next step is, before we can actually do anything, is you have to take this mandatory computer security training. And it's a link that will walk you through all the various things having to do with spam and viruses and worms and social engineering and all that stuff having to do with network security. The government is very concerned about anybody that is granted access to our systems, that you understand fully that, especially in today's internet connected world, there's a lot of risk out there with cybersecurity, and we want to ensure that before we give you access to our computer, that you have a good understanding of all that. So once you've completed that training, then we ask you to take a screenshot or print off the certificate that shows that you have completed it. If you feel like you are smart enough, you could actually take the fast track and test out of the whole course, but that's all part of that step 4. So then the 5th step is, yes, we need a actual, somehow either send us a photo or the actual certificate that comes from that training, just to know that we can move forward with your onboarding. Step 6 has to do with what we do with these cohorts is we build a bio book that shows a little snapshot of who everyone in this cohort is. And so there's another form that we ask you to complete that has more of, think of it like your school yearbook, that it has a little bit of bio information about what your career aspirations are, where you're going to be serving, what kind of an assignment you're going to be doing. And then we also are asking for 2 professional headshots that we could pick from that will be incorporated into this. And at the what we're going to do is, before the orientation begins, we will have this bio book built so that you'll be able to then look at it and see who all is in this cohort, so that if you are, let's say, an archaeologist, you could sort of connect with other archaeologists that are also in this program. And so Vanessa's showing just a little view of what the prior one looked like. So we're looking for a small paragraph about you, like what, like I said, what are your career goals? What, where have you been in life? What kind of dreams and aspirations do you have? We're just looking for, something personal that you can share with the rest of the group. We'll associate it with what forest and region you're working in, and also the importance of providing us a good enough quality headshot that we can put it in here, and when it gets reproduced, that it's not too pixelated. So we're looking for, we don't expect you to go on and actually pay for a private sitting at a photographer, but if you could just even have a friend take a close-up shot of you, or you could do a selfie, just something that looks what we call professional, so that you're presenting yourself. The mentors and the Forest Service hiring managers are going to be looking at this bio book in the future, and you want it to be something that they'll look at, the reading the description and the picture and thinking, wow, this is a really great person that I want to hire. Let me track them down and see what we can do. So that bio book is it's a very special thing that we have been doing with each cohort. There is a OF 301 form that is a volunteer agreement that's being sent to you. And the purpose for this form is that the partners that you're working for are, it was negotiated in the agreement that they are not accepting any workers' comp liability for you in the case of a workplace injury. And so we're providing this form that we are asking you all the highlighted sections to fill in. And then on the second page, we need a signature. If you are able to do a digital signature, great. If you need to use one of those apps where you can kind of sign with your fingerprint, however you're able to actually print that off or sign it electronically, whatever works on your end. Fill out all those yellow sections and then sign it, date it, and then return it to us at that. There she's doing an actual digital signature. And without your credentials, you may not be able to do what she's showing on the screen. But again, we need some sort of a verification that you are acknowledging this. It's also legal for us to accept that /S/ and then to print your name. That also is accepted as a digital signature. So fill that out and send it back to us for our records. And then what we will do is we have to take that document, and then whichever unit you are working with, we have to have a Forest Service official sign it in that block 42, authorizing that this is an executed agreement. And again, the purpose of this form is strictly in the unfortunate situation that you would have a workplace injury, that we are covering the workers' comp liability. And then tort claims is also part of that, where if you in the work that you're doing do damage to, let's say, a Publix. Probably one of the best examples that I can think of is you're out at a campground, you're painting a table, and somebody comes and sits down on the table with their designer jeans, and now the government has to replace that pair of jeans for that person from the public. The tort claims is that portion of it. So it's just something that that is afforded in the event of if you're acting on an official capacity and you do damage to someone in the private sector. The tort claims covers you for that. Okay, getting back to the checklist then. The next section is sort of occurring concurrently with the rest of the onboarding, but the reason that it's highlighted in yellow is it has to do with the background investigation. And so once we enter all of your PII, your personally identifiable information, into the system, it sort of triggers a whole bunch of other things behind the scenes, and you will receive an email. I can't remember the specifics, but you're going to receive an email that you have to enroll for. What it is you're getting your fingerprints taken for the FBI, and also a photograph taken for your eventual link pass card. And so you will be given this email that comes automatically from the system that asks you to schedule an enrollment appointment at a credentialing center that is within your location. Because of COVID, a lot of the stations that were normally accessible to us are not open to USDA. Actually, when you're looking on the site, it's Department of Agriculture is what you're looking for, and you could actually click on that Vanessa schedule an appointment, make an appointment section, and this is what's going to pop up. You're going to look for the drop down arrow that you need to find Department of Agriculture. And those are the sites that will accept us as agency personnel. And then you're going to just enter in the search field your current city and state. And then in some cases, your nearest light activation center might be 100 miles away. And you'll have to decide if you want to make that trip now, or there is sort of a workaround that I'll show you later in the process. But anyway, just enter your current city and state, and then hit the find locations, and then whatever comes up. So my screen is a little bit delayed. So yeah, in this case, the nearest station is American Fork, Utah, which is 55 miles away. But if that's the nearest one, you're going to pick it and then hit continue. Highlight it there. There you go. And then a calendar will pop up. Anything that's showing in green will be open appointments that you can schedule. All you need is one appointment. Because we're at the end of the April, there might be better options in May for you to schedule an appointment, but you're going to have to just kind of pick and choose to see within the next several weeks whether something is open to you within your vicinity or not. And if it is, go ahead and schedule that appointment and show up. You'll get an email that tells you the information that you need to bring with you. I think you need 2 pieces of identification, like a birth certificate, a passport, a driver's license. The email will specifically say what is accepted documentation to bring in for this appointment. They will on a digital reader, they will capture all 10 of your fingerprints. And just like this card is showing on the screen, they will also take a picture, much like at the driver's license place, where they put you against the wall and have you take a professional headshot for the actual card. So that's the enrollment appointment. If you, Vanessa, want to go back to the checklist, I forget what the next thing is. So the other thing that's going to be triggered automatically is this e-authentication. And I would say with that email, it's going to be asking you to verify the information that you have provided us. So I think the first question in order to sort of claim your e-authentication account is the last 4 digits of your social security number and your date of birth. If we've already entered you into the system and the system does not recognize you, it is possible that we entered something incorrectly. And so if you get an error message that you're not showing up once you get the automatic email, if the system is sort of acting as though it doesn't recognize you, there may be a problem with the way that we entered the data. So before you go too much farther, reach back to Vanessa and I, and we'll just verify whether we entered something incorrectly or not. Okay, the next step is you are going to get a separate email from someone. There are about 4 different personnel security specialists that work at our Albuquerque Service Center, and they will send you an email that contains the form OF306, and it also contains the EKIP questionnaire. And so the next 2 sections are really the trickiest to complete. So this OF306 is for the background investigation, and it is asking you all sorts of details about your past. So just fill it out as best you can, depending on how old you are or how much you have worked or traveled around. It may be simpler for others than not, but just fill it out as completely as you can, and then you'll need to send that back to the person that sent it to you. Do not return it to our inbox, but return it directly to the personnel security specialist that emailed it to you. And so they will be, as I mentioned, concurrently doing the background investigation for you that will eventually match up with this enrollment appointment with your fingerprints and your photograph. That once everything has been adjudicated, then we will be able to get your actual credential card printed. So let's see. I think Vanessa, you're showing still the OF306. Again, there's all sorts of questions in there about things that your permanent place of residence, your date of birth. There a lot of this information is going to be duplicated of what you've already submitted, and it's just another thing to sort of match up who you say you are with what is on file with your information. So just fill that out as accurately as you can, and then, like I said, return it to that person that sent it to you initially. So it's going to be a combination of, I'll try to remember the names, Alexandria Bivens. Oh boy, I'm not going to remember their names. I think there's 4 people that are doing the background investigation. So just be aware that when they send it to you, you'll need to return it back to them. The next section is called EKIP questionnaire, and that is also being sent by these personnel security specialists. The thing with EKIP is that you have to complete the questionnaire in 14 days, or the link that they provided to you will expire. And so you'll have to, carve out some time when they send it to you, you'll have to just sit down and fill it out as completely and accurately as you can. And it's going to be asking you, I don't remember if it's 5 or 10 years back. And again, it depends somewhat on how old you are currently, but It's going to be asking for all of the places that you have lived and worked. And what this is doing is combining all of this information in a record so that the personnel security folks can do your background investigation without any shadow of a doubt that you are who you say you are, and that we can move forward with the adjudication of your clear background investigation. And so this is all required as being part of the federal government, that you complete this exercise. Again, be as honest as you can. It's better, let's say you had a violation, a drunk driving incident in your past. It's better to disclose this and have them clear it than try to hide anything and them to find it. So if you have anything in your past that might be somewhat questionable, I would just say put it down, and you'll be able to justify it later. If they are the ones that discover it and you didn't disclose it to begin with, that will be more tricky for you to justify why you missed it to begin with. Let's see. I think that's that next section, that SF 6500-254. I think that's not needed anymore, but in some cases they were sending that out and we were just alerting people that they didn't need to worry about that form. Okay, so I think we're out of the yellow section. We're getting back to what Vanessa and I are doing with the onboarding. So a lot of this is either like a ping pong effect, that you do something and then we do something and then you do something and we do something. And that's all working concurrently with the background investigation. And so what we are doing as soon as we are able is the first step, once we've entered you into our system, is within a couple days, we are able to request from our IT department that they establish your Forest Service profile with your email address that you'll be issued. And so that's one step in the process that we're doing in order to get things flowing through properly. We then are able to order your laptop computer to be delivered to you, but we're not able to do it until your new email address for the Forest Service, which will be an @usda.gov. Once that is showing up in our formal address book, then we're able to order your computer. And so what our hope is that over the next month or so, we will be able to get many of you through this process so that we will actually get the computer sent to your home. And so there's going to be some tricky timing here, especially for those of you that are going to be relocating for your assignment later in June. And so keep us updated if things change. If you told us initially in the form that you filled out that you were going to be working virtually or remotely, and now you've decided, oh no, I'm going to actually relocate to the Forest Service office. If there's any situations like that you've either given us information about and now it's changed, or maybe your moving date has been moved up something, we will, between now and the first part of June, we will need to know kind of the specifics of if you're currently living at your permanent residence, or maybe for the next month you're hanging out with your aunt and uncle in some other state. We need to know where to send that computer. And so be sure to let us know if things change, if you're going to be taking a trip somewhere and you're not going to be at home for the next several weeks. I understand that the computers are either being shipped UPS or FedEx, and that a signature is required for the delivery of that for acknowledgement. And so that's why once we can actually get you through the system to be able to order the computer, we'll need to know where to ship that to. Once we place the order for the computer, it has been taking at least 3 weeks before the computer is delivered. And so that's why we're doing a lot of this onboarding so much in advance, because it's the waiting for the computer depot to actually get that computer out the door and sent to you is taking much longer than we had anticipated in the past. And so the reason, that all of this kind of got pushed up much sooner to just do the onboarding quicker is that delay. We are hopeful that by the time orientation happens, you will actually have your computer in hand, but in some cases we won't be able to complete that, and we'll ask if you're able to join the orientation through your personal computer. And so much of the rest of this, I think we're not going to get into a lot of the specifics about, what happens once you actually once you actually receive the computer. But again, we have an IT department that will help you troubleshoot to get it turned on and access through our VPN, virtual private network. There's a lot of different troubleshooting that will happen. And I think as Sylvia mentioned, the last open call that we will have before orientation, I think we're going to have an IT person on the line and just help you to go through kind of the steps with getting your computer updated or working for you. So let's see, Vanessa or Sylvia, is there anything that I missed that I should have mentioned? So yeah, number 12, she's highlighting that once you do receive your computer, let us know, just so that we know that it is, we could kind of check that off the list. We're hoping that once we actually order the computer, we will be able to give you a tracking number that will you'll be able to see whether it's coming FedEx or UPS, and kind of give you an estimated date and time of delivery. But for many of you, it'll be several more weeks before we could get to that point. So let's see, what else? Is there anything else about this checklist that I should be highlighting? There's some other things on it, again, that we'll go over once you actually get your computer and you can start to personalize it. Working with your mentor, you might need to get some access into certain programs and whatnot, but we'll go over that as we get later into the once we get more people with actual computers in their hands.
I guess one thing I wanted to mention, Dawn, is that the week before orientation week, we will have a session for setting up the computers. Hopefully we'll have the computers by then. And we have an IT specialist who will help us just set things up and let us know how to do a 30-day exemption, because we will need that, because link passes will not have reached each RA by then. But yes, I would also like to mention that we are really serious about you saving this phone number, 866-945-1354. It's your best friend for the first month or two, because you will be calling CHD pretty often.
CHD is Computer Help Desk, and yes, they are our IT department for all things. Any particular day, one of us can log on and our computer, we get the black screen and nothing works. You'd always want to just call that IT department and have them troubleshoot through things with you. Okay, so I did want to just mention that, again, all of these steps are happening concurrently, but the end goal is really for you to get your government computer and to be issued your what we call the LinkPass credential card. The steps with your background investigation, the fingerprints and all that stuff, it's embedded into the card, and you will actually insert your card into a slot in your computer, and that will be, you'll be using a 6-digit PIN at that point. But until we can actually get you your LinkPass credential card, every 30 days you will have to create a unique password, and there's a whole nother document involved with how to create, because it has to be a very complex password. But every 30 days you'll have to request a password exemption for your computer. But again, we'll talk more about that once we get into the point where more of you are actually holding in front of you the computer that we have sent you. So I think with that, as Sylvia mentioned, these are just open calls. We wanted to just offer a few ideas about what you may be struggling with on your end with this checklist. But if anyone has questions that came up, this is just the time to either raise your hand, take your camera off, open your camera up and let us know. Yes, Vanessa, it looks like you have something else.
Yes, wanted to mention that aside from the onboarding process, we will be having an orientation week from June 13th to the 17th, and that's from 11 a.m. or 11:30 or noon to 5:36. We're still getting the agenda set up, and Sylvia is managing most of that. But we'll mention that whole orientation has its own platform, and our partner organization, Greening Youth Foundation, who also recruits RAs for us, they will be facilitating that whole orientation. And so we'll be getting invites for that separate platform at some point, probably 2 weeks or a week before orientation. So you'll get invites for that. And GYF will actually be in that call with IT to set up the computers. So you'll just get an introduction to that platform the week before. But invitations will be sent out to you for that. Looks like Anthony has a question.
Hey, yeah. So I just completed my information security awareness training, and the certificate said it was not available. Do I have to wait for it to load, or I'm not sure because it says completed on my workspace thing.
But I don't know if you can just take a screenshot of what you're seeing and then forward that to us just for verification.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Would that work for you?
Yeah.
Because in some cases it's not necessary to actually print out the certificate. We just need verification that that the system is saying that yes, you completed it. So if you could do that and send it to that inbox, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll do it once this is over. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Valerie, I think you have your hand up.
Yes, hi. So if I have another photo or headshot that I can send, can I just email it to you guys? All right, awesome. Thank you.
Yep, if you decided you want to do a different one, by all means, just send it to that same inbox and we'll add it to the collection. And then what we do is just sort of pick the best one that we feel looks the most professional, that's not pixelated, or we want sort of a close-up so that we can see your smiling face or whatnot. So yeah, feel free to just email us more versions if now you've decided that you have something better you want to use.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a question or a comment? Micah.
Yes, so I'm kind of in the situation where I'll be relocating. So I'm currently in Kentucky and I'll be going all the way to Arizona. So for that first kind of, I think it was a step 3 to get all the information of, where I'm living, my permanent address, where I'm going to be living during the internship. So I don't actually have an apartment or anything lined up yet for my new location. So, and I figured I'd still want to try and complete all of these steps before moving. So do you want me to just put the address that I'm living at right now in Kentucky and then kind of ignore those, or at least put this information in those boxes? Or should I wait to do that for the move, or what would you prefer?
So I would say give us as much information in the questionnaire that you can.
Okay.
In your case, if you're actually working at a Forest Service office, we can send the computer there. We don't need to know which apartment you're actually going to be living at once you get there. So what I would say for you and everyone else, that if the situation is that you're relocating to a Forest Service office, and you will have the ability to do the Zoom orientation on another device, then it might be simplest for you just to go about your business, and we'll send the computer to your office so that the day that you arrive, you can just go and claim your computer from your supervisor at the office. Again, it might depend on, what your timing is, how long in advance you plan to be arriving in town or whatnot. But I think in your specific case,
So yeah, in my case, so I'm not actually sure if I have a specific office I'll be working out of. They said I'd be working with quite a few different people.
okay.
So in my mind, if I maybe just finished all of the onboarding stuff by maybe the first week of May, do you think that would be enough time to have everything sent to my Kentucky address by the time? Because I think my move will be June 10th or 11th, around there. So
Yeah.
Maybe a month. Do you think that'd be an adequate amount of time to receive everything before moving?
Yes, I would think it would. So just again, for you and everyone else listening, that section on the checklist that's in yellow, that will all take much longer to complete. And so as long as you do everything above that yellow line now, I think we can get the process going quick enough to get your computer sent to you in Kentucky before the orientation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Let's see. Next, I see Elizabeth.
Hi, so this is kind of similar on the topic of housing, and this might be better as an email. I'm not quite sure. I was just wondering about government housing because I'm also relocating, and that was listed in there. And if it's not an option, I kind of need to start apartment hunting, and I just didn't know if there's any more information about that.
Okay, so I would say for those of you that are relocating to a Forest Service office, we do in some cases have government housing available. You should work with your mentor on what the specifics of that are. Regardless of what arrangements are made between you and your mentor, you will receive $1,000 per month housing supplement. If you're lucky enough that there is government housing that you can stay in, you're still going to get that $1,000 check. However, you are probably going to be responsible for paying what they call quarters. And so the local office may need to issue you a separate, what they call a bill for collection, which will be kind of like your rental payment that you'll have to get the money from the partner for the housing, and then you'll be responsible for paying the quarters fee on the rental. So I see Sylvia coming offline. I don't know if you have something to add to that.
Nothing to add. I actually just joined back in.
Okay.
I had to take another call real quick, so I just got back in. I'm sure you.
Wow, we didn't even know we were missing you. Thank you. So yeah, does that help answer, Elizabeth? Just the specifics about government housing, you need to each work with your mentor on, because we don't, at the Washington office, we don't know what the arrangements are locally, whether in some cases there might be a bunkhouse where you're sharing rooms. They might have a cabin, they might have an actual house or a trailer, you know, there's all sorts of different scenarios. But in the event that the actual Forest Service location has what they're calling government housing, you will also then be responsible for paying for that rental on that unit. But in many cases, it's going to be way cheaper than going on the private market for a house. So I would say if you have that option, just, accept it. And, you know, again, it might be a shared living quarter kind of situation, not the ideal situation, but you'll be saving some money because you're still going to get that $1,000 every month for the housing supplement. It'll just be to your advantage that it might not cost you as much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Is it Christian?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Okay.
My question is, so the main objective is just to have the onboarding tasks all complete before June 13th, or is there a direct date for each task that we have to do?
I would say in general, if you're looking at the checklist, if you could complete everything above that section that's in yellow. So if you could complete everything above that pronto, like do that within the next week, that will ensure that we can get you the computer in time.
Yes, ma'am. So just
So if
steps 1 through 7 before next week.
Yeah, so if you could carve out some time, I know some of those things will take longer than others, but if you could carve out some time to just complete all of those steps above the yellow section, that will help us just to, again, we're trying to get the computers be able to be sent to you before orientation. And so because a lot of things have to happen in order to allow us to order the computer, it's best if we can get those things done right away.
All right, that's perfect. Thank you for that.
All right. Yep. Let's see. I don't see any other hands. Does anyone either want to ask a question, come off camera, put something in the chat? And as we mentioned before, we're going to have these calls weekly, and we're basically going to be going over the exact same thing that we did today, answering specific questions people have. It's not going to be anything new in the next several weeks. It's only going to be closer to the time of the orientation, the first part of June, that the session will be any different. So if you feel confident that you can follow through that onboarding checklist without any specific questions, you don't need to dial back in next week or the following week. You know, just feel free to move on, and we'll assume that everything's going good on your end. But we wanted to just make it available that if you had specific questions that you weren't sure about a certain step, or you know, an email that you received, what you should how you should handle it. You can dial in next week, or feel free to send an email to that inbox, and we'll try to answer it as we get to it. Let's see, what else? Anything, Vanessa or Sylvia, that I missed that I could clear up?
I think you're very thorough, Dawn.
Why, thank you. So we'll just hang on. I saw maybe one person come a little late. If you want to hang up now, we'll send you on your way, and appreciate you spending the time with us. Again, if you have questions, just feel free to reach out. And if you don't feel like you have any questions, like I said, don't feel obligated to dial in next week. If you do, feel free. It's just an open call, kind of like a professor has an open door policy to come in and ask anything that might be on your mind with that course. So that's kind of what we've provided here, is just an open call with some time to help you maneuver through the process. And we do know that it's very cumbersome, and we appreciate you taking the time to do all that.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you do the same.